I'm Barney Mohan. I'm the product manager for MapleMBSE. So today's webinar is about introducing MapleMBSE 2020 and its new features. So as an outline for this webinar, I'm going to just give you a very short overview of what MapleMBSE is. But to know more, you have to get through our previous recording. You can access it by going to MapleMBSE.com. You'll be able to find our previous recording where we have given a very deep detail of what MapleMBSE is, how it's able to collaborate with your modeling tool across the organization. And once I'm done with the overview, I'm going to go into MapleMBSE 2020 features. We have added so many new cool features if you compare it with 2019. I've cut down the session in a way where I'm going to first go on to MapleMBSE features in general, like which is common across our tool, even if you're using either with Teamwork Cloud Server, Magic Draw, or Kepala. And the configuration file, so this is more focused on the expert users who are the system engineers or the system architects who creates these MapleMBSE view for end users. So in an MBSE process, the common challenges in adopting is we have a system engineer, we have the system architects who are very familiar or who are their experts in the modeling languages and the modeling tools. So they are very comfortable in using these languages, tools to create the system models in their MBSE process. So this system model, again, it's going to be more descriptive with structures, behavior, requirements, and parameters. But the problem or the challenge is when they have to bring in the different stakeholders. So an organization outside of this system engineers and system architects, so these are the ones who create the whole MBSE ecosystem. But once that is set up, they need to bring in different stakeholders into contributing to the system model. So these stakeholders could be the product managers, someone working in the product line, procurement, safety engineers, etc. So the challenge here is these engineers or these target stakeholders, they are not familiar with the modeling tool or the modeling languages like SysML, Arcadia, UML, etc. So this is where the problem comes in. As you can see, the workflow is going to be like the system engineer architect is going to update the system model, and this information is somehow given to the stakeholder through either some Excel sheets or through some Word documents or sent through an email or it becomes detached from the actual or the authoritative source of truth. And now when these stakeholders, when they have to provide their input, provide their review back to the model, the only way they could do now is they have to send it as some spreadsheets or document back to the system engineer. What happens because of this is we have so many misinterpretation between these stakeholders who are the design engineers and the system engineers. They don't understand the common language now. There is a lot of review that has to go back and forth. It's a lot of iteration and we eventually end up losing time. So what MapleMBSE is, MapleMBSE addresses this specific problem. So instead of going all the way over from the system model where you detach from the actual model, we want to give these project stakeholders access to the system model in a more controlled way. So the system engineer controls, so these are exactly what, or this is how I want my inputs to be stored into my system model from these stakeholders. So I want to add something like a task specific view for a certain engineer. Like if it's a safety engineer, I want to give him certain views, not the whole model. I don't want to expose the whole model. Very specific information that is relevant for that engineer and the task that this engineer has to perform. So what MapleMBSE is, MapleMBSE uses a Microsoft Excel frontend. So we give the users now a very familiar interface. The difference here is it's not an Excel sheet that is exported from the model. So it's not a sheet that is detached from the model. The engineers will be using Excel to connect to the system model, access the information. These informations are displayed as tables in the Excel, and the changes that these engineers want to make or want to review, they make changes directly onto the Excel tables. And MapleMBSE will transform these changes into system elements or the respective modeling language. So that's what MapleMBSE is. You have a live connection between the model and the Excel interface. So that's what MapleMBSE maintains. But to get more detail of how this could be achieved and have a more detailed workflow, please go to MapleMBSE.com or visit our previous webinars. So now what happens is, since everything is stored in this one authoritative source of truth, the system engineers and other stakeholders can easily access the information back and forth and always have the most recent or the latest changes that's in the server model. And why this benefits is it broadens the engagement across the whole system engineering process. Now the system engineers and the system architects, they can bring in their whole organization. They can use their inputs with very minimum training. Since it's Excel, it's very easy for the users to pick it on and perform their operations. So what it does, again, it's very easy to use since it's Excel. It reduces cost. It's very flexible integration. What we mean by here is we are not fixed to certain view. So we are not going to fix to this is the view or this is the only view that is possible for MapleMBSE to connect to the server or to the SysML model. The backend is completely customizable by the user. So the user can customize it, fit it based on their individual project or different processes within an organization. So it's completely customizable by the user. So that's like a very short overview that I wanted to give you. But like I mentioned, if you want to get more information, please visit our MapleMBSE.com website. You will be able to see our previous webinar where we have gone into detail of how the workflow is going to be. But so today, going back to the topic, I'm going to discuss with the features that we have added for MapleMBSE 2020. The first new addition for us is Eclipse Capella adapter. So we did not officially support Capella, but from our recent release from this month, we can work with Capella models. You can launch MapleMBSE same way as the previous, as you work with the previous adapters, like with Rhapsody or Magic Draw. You can do the same thing with Capella now. And we have focused a lot on improving the performance. You'll be able to see a huge difference if you have used 2019 and if you compare it with 2020. And there are very additional new shortcuts that we have added to make the whole editing process in Excel easier, like for undo, redo. So these are two new additions. Undo and redo, here we do not mean by the Excel's undo and redo. We have added a completely new feature for within MapleMBSE to do undo and redo, where you can delete the model element, add new model elements, but if you want to go back to a previous state, you can use undo and redo. So for restart, one problem that we had with 2019 is if you have to change to a new configuration file or to a new template file, you had to close MapleMBSE, you have to launch it again, and it takes certain time to launch and then again for you to connect to the server. But with the new restart feature, we have also added a shortcut for restart. So with this, you will reduce that initial load time. When you restart, it will automatically, with the previous session, it is going to ask you to select a new configuration file, and you will see that there is a significant reduction in time when you do the process with 2019 and 2020 using restart. And the third, and the next feature is cell merge. So what we mean by cell merge is, if you have used previous versions of MapleMBSE or the current version 2, there will be in the tables there will be certain redundancy that you see for between hierarchies or between the tables. So what cell merge does is it provides a view with a very compact view of what the model would look like in a table. So this is again, it's not a view that's editable. It's purely for visualization. So it creates a very simple and a nice view of the table in a model with reducing all the redundant information in a table. And we have made some certain updates to our Teamwork Cloud adapter. So one is you have the ability to create branch now. So from MapleMBSE, once you launch and connect to a trunk, previously you will not be able to add new branch, but now with if you have the right permissions, you'll be able to create new branches. And we have support for the latest Teamwork Cloud Service Pack, which is 19 Service Pack 3. And then for signing in options, you have the normal sign in to Teamwork Cloud. And we now also support single sign-on with SAML. So if your Teamwork Cloud server is integrated with SAML, you have the option now to log in as a SAML user. And then the other feature is to access arbitrary commits. So this is different from if you have been using it with Cameo or Magic Draw. Is with arbitrary commit, you will be able to access a revision without creating a branch in MapleMBSE. So you can go to a revision, you can open that in MapleMBSE, you can view the content of the revision. And if you want to now create a new branch out of it, you can do it. So this is different in a way that in Cameo or in Magic Draw, you can view and revision only after creating a branch. So after creating a branch, now it's more of like how you do it from trunk or from a pre-revision. But with MapleMBSE, it's just you can view the revision readily. So now to give you a sense of the performance improvement that I mentioned before, previously if you have worked with MapleMBSE and you wanted to import say around 10,000 requirements, it has 4 different columns with some input in each of those columns. This would take around 25 minutes in our previous release. But now you can do that with less than 4 minutes. And same way for editing operations too, between like adding element or deleting certain elements in the Excel table, you would feel significant difference between the previous version and this version. And we also have changed logics on how MapleMBSE handles cache with larger models and the revision number. So these 3 informations for performance improvement, you will feel much difference if you have been working with our previous release and our current release. And for the shortcuts, these are the list of new shortcuts that we have added. If you go into add-ins where all these would be listed, you would see also like a hint that reload could be used with this shortcut or restart could be used with this shortcut. So why these shortcuts? Again, to improve the usability. So like I mentioned in the previous slide, we have the undo and redo. You can use it with the shortcut Control-Shift-Z for undo and Y for redo. And for this to work, you actually need to have a complete entry on the sync table. So if it's an incomplete entry or if your input has not been accepted by MapleMBSE yet, you will not be able to use this feature. So for restart, again, the restart is going to be in the add-ins menu, and you will feel the significant reduction in time between switching from one configuration file to the other. And towards the end of this session, I'm going to also show you a demo of all the features that I'm going to mention today. So for cell merging, like I mentioned before, it's to reduce the redundancy. It will be more clear when I'm going to show this to you in the demo. So for specifically, again, for Teamwork Cloud adapter, we have added more control over releasing logs. So previously, once you close MapleMBSE, we automatically release log, or when you reload, or if you save your changes from MapleMBSE to the server, we automatically release logs. But now the user has the option while committing, as you can see here, keep logs. Now they have an option now. Once you check this box, your logs will be retained with all the new elements you added or all the changes that you made with MapleMBSE, even when you go to a new revision. But again, the way of releasing logs works the same way as before. If you close MapleMBSE session or if you commit without checking keep logs, the logs will be released automatically. And now you also have the ability to ignore the snapshot. Snapshot is basically the local save. And previously, once you edit the model, save it, you're going to save a local copy. And every time you close MapleMBSE restart, the local copy is always going to be loaded automatically. But now we have the option to ignore this local snapshot and get the most recent changes from the server. So for creating new branch, if you have the right permission from the server, so you have to be assigned as a resource creator by the Teamwork Cloud server. And this part is very specific to Teamwork Cloud server. You will be able to, during the commit, you'll see an option to create new branch. You have to check this option, enter a branch name and description to create a new branch. So for users who do not have the permissions to create new branch, this checkbox will be grayed out. And also while accessing arbitrary commit. So now you have a complete revision browser to see the different revisions that is available for the project, what are the branches that's available, who has recently made commit to the model, when was it committed, any comments, you'll be able to filter it based on it. And once you want to view a revision, you don't need to actually create a branch here. You can click OK, and you'll be able to view the changes or whatever that specific information is available in that revision. And then if you feel that you want to add more information here and then create it as a new branch, you'll have this option to do once you log into MapleMBSE. So now I'm getting to the part where it's more towards the configuration side of the MapleMBSE. So this is more of interest to the configuration editor default value generation. So this is a feature that we added into our configuration editor QPE. So what this does is instead of, say for example, you have a workflow in which you create component and subcomponent. And by this, we don't actually need to have a requirement to add a part name for each of those subcomponents. So if you have used it with Cameo or Magic Draw or other SysML tools, you would know that you need to create a block and another block and kind of add an association between them to create a part relation. And it's optional if you want to create a name for the association or to the part property. So same way here with using the default value generation, if you don't want the user from Excel to perform this task of every time he has to create or provide a name for the part property, by default you can specify this in the configuration file. So once they create something in MapleMBSE, this name will automatically be created. You can use this to generate a specific text, like you see the first option within double quotes in the configuration file next to where you define the column. If you use this option, the user text will always appear every time they create something. And for sequence ID, so if you are working, say example with a requirement or other features where you need to actually include some sequence of IDs, if you use this, the ID will be automatically generated. You can also use a combination of text and sequence number or some unique identifiers. So this unique identifier is separate from ID that you see in the modeling tool. So this is, again, all this to reduce the effort of the front-end user. The other part is instance table. So if we have been working with instance specification if you want to create an instance tree for a top level component, you need to create instance for each of those components and say that one of the sub instances belongs to the top level instance. So you need to do a lot even with the modeling tool itself. but we created a separate feature within the template file. So once you use this instance table features, you will be able to just specify the block to which you want to create the instance recursively. So it will automatically create, it will automatically look for all the part properties or all the value properties and create a complete list of the instance specification, and it is going to display to you in form of a table. So again, I'll show you an example to make a better understanding on this. And the final one is predicate filtering. So this is also something that we extended our QP. QP here is the, we mean the query path expression that you use in the configuration file. So what predicate is, it matches a Boolean condition that is going to query the whole model based on how we have defined the configuration file. And it's going to display the elements one if it satisfies the condition that you have defined for the predicate. For example, this is very useful when you're dealing with a very large model. Say you have thousands or hundreds of requirements. You want to query all the requirements that matches certain tag value that you have defined, or it matches certain relationship. For example, if you want to just bring in requirements which does not have a satisfied relation with the block, you can create these kind of conditions with predicates, and MapleMBSE will bring in elements that satisfies this condition. And you can use it with the combinations of the array operators that you see here, like the AND, or NOT, count, subset, superset. So you can use it individually or a combination of any of this. And then you can also use these with inequalities, as you can see at the bottom. Like if you want to say, for example, you have a lot of simulated results stored as instance in the model, and for certain instance you have defined different error values, and you want to query the model that matches certain error value, or matches with a less than or greater than a certain error value. You can query it based on these specific values and bring those information back into MapleMBSE. In addition to this, we have also added additional examples that you'll be able to work with the TMT model. So this is the 30-meter telescope model. You'll be able to download this model from OpenMBEE, and the spacecraft model. So these two models are publicly available to use it with the examples that you find in MapleMBSE's installation. You have to download this. Inside the installation, you will again find the links where you could download both the models. All you have to do is launch the template files, connect to the model. You have to download and save this model to your Teamwork Cloud server. Once you do this, you will be able to use the template files and check out the new examples. So now I'll show you the demo. So here I've already loaded the MapleMBSE's example for predicate. For example, so like I mentioned, here I'm going to show you the predicate operation. So I have defined certain condition in the configuration file. Now what I want to see is I want to match, or I want to only display results that matches certain conditions that I've defined in my configuration file. So here, this is the telescope model, and querying the requirements in this specific view from the telescope model. So I have a total of 7,029 requirements that is available in the model. So on the top, you can see that I've connected to the server and accessing the TMT model. As you see, I have around 7,000 requirements. So here in this view, I'm querying requirements which do not have a rational to it. So here I am getting the different IDs that have been defined for the telescope model, the name, specification, and verification description for the requirements. But as you can see, for all the requirements that are being displayed in this specific view or this specific worksheet, I do not have any rational that is defined in my column. So as you can see, there are no rational. and you can see a total of 5,732 requirements that are being listed here, which do not have a rational. So you can see that we have automatically already filtered that. You can see in this specific requirement R0, requirement 1, 2420. You can see I have a rational here. If I search for this requirement in the previous one, you will not be able to find this because I have applied a filter that I want to only see requirements that do not have a rational to this. So similarly, here I'm doing the same kind of filtering, but what I wanted to filter here is I want to only see requirements which has the tag value accepted. So as you can see, these are again the requirements that you will be able to see in the list of the requirements from the model. So here you can see this is the requirement that we have been filtered in the third column here. So now you see that based on the condition again that I have described, I have only 90 requirements that has the accepted status or the tag value which is accepted. So now in this specific worksheet, again I'm querying the complete model for value properties. So these are the different value properties and the value properties of which component. So here I'm having the component, their value properties, and I'm showing this because these are the only value properties in the model that do not have a data type or a unit assigned to it. So this is more of interest to the system engineer or system architect because now with the ID, it's very easy for them to find this element in Magic Draw or Cameo. But the filter here was applied through predicates in MapleMBSE. So out of all the components that's available in the model, I'm just querying certain components which has value properties without any unit. Similarly, this shows all the constraint parameter types. So there are different constraints. There will be different constraint blocks with constraints and parameters defined in the telescope model. But this specific view, what I'm filtering is I'm getting the complete information from the model of all the constraint blocks, which has parameters that does not have any unit or data type again. So it does not have any type that is assigned to the parameter. So these are the only list that's available. So that's how predicate works. So I have defined a certain condition in the configuration file, and based on this condition, MapleMBSE will display the information. Now, to get back on the other features that I explained before, you can see in the add-ins, we have the reload, restart, and the merge feature with all the new shortcuts that have been assigned. So I'm going to use restart, and you can see how fast MapleMBSE will load, and I'm going to connect to a different model. So I've used the shortcut. So in the slideshow. Okay, so before that, let me first show you our Capella connection. So for examples with Capella, you'll be able to find it in our installation examples and Capella sample. So this sample works with the in-flight entertainment unit that you will find with the Capella installation. So now I've launched MapleMBSE. So it's loading up all the needed files for Capella, and it's asking me to select a Capella model file. So this is the extension for Capella file. It's the Melody modeler. We connect directly with the local installation of Capella, and this is the model file. Once I click on OK, you'll be able to see all the functionality, all the necessary information from the model. If you have previously seen the in-flight entertainment units model, you'll be able to see the same information, but it's being displayed as table. You can see these are the different operational activities, the functional exchanges between the operational activity, the source and target. These are the list of all the system functions. So from the top level, then the system functions and L1, L2 layer of the system function and the description for the function. Similarly, this is a view of the logical functions, logical components, physical components, etc. So here, as you can see, I have so many redundant information in this table. Like all these are repeated, but I want to see it in a more customized view. So this is where we can use the create merge view. If you right click on the table, you'll see create merge view. Once I click on this, you can see now a kind of a hierarchy here. So this is my top level function is to perform maintenance and configuration and test operation. You can see the sub-level functions and the description of these. So similarly, if I do the same here with logical components, now you can see I have a top level logical architecture. There are different logical components, the second level logical component and the third level logical component. Like I have the IFE system, which has 4 different subcomponents. Now the aircraft friend server has another 4 logical components. So this is what merged cells means. Like you have a very crisp, but be careful that this is not a MapleMBSE worksheet. So this is the actual worksheet. This is just to have a very presentable view. Now I'm going to restart. I'm going to show you the example with Teamwork Cloud now, and to show the branches, the revision, and the other capabilities that I explained before. So I've launched it. So now MapleMBSE, what it is doing is it is loading the library files for my Teamwork Cloud. Sure. So since I'm using 2 screen, everything is opening in my other screen. So here, this is a login that if you have used our previous, this has been the same. The only difference now is you have the single sign-on now. So if I click on the single sign-on, and this open in the other window, you will see a web browser with credentials where you can enter the credentials. So for this specific server, we have not integrated with SAML, so you don't see a SAML user. So let me bring that up. Let me change the server. Now, if your Teamwork Cloud server is integrated with SAML, you will see SAML user. Once you click on the SAML user, it is going to ask you for your credentials. Once it's validated, you'll be able to access it back here in the login. But for this demo, I'm going to work with my other server. So now, once I log in, I'm going to work with the sample model. So here, this is the revision browser that I mentioned. Once you click on this down arrow, the revision browser is going to open. As you can see, I'll be able to see the different users who have made changes to the specific project. Similarly, if I change the project, let me select a different project. So now you can see the list of all the revisions that's available for that project. You'll be able to filter it based on the author who has made changes. to this. Sure. And if you want to select a specific revision, so as you can see, that I don't have any branch for this revision 24. I click OK. Automatically, I'm going to get those information. All right. Click on OK. Now I'm actually opening a revision which does not exist as a branch yet. So what MapleMBSE will load now is it will load only the information based on the template file and whatever is accessible to that specific revision. So this is a bit slow because of my VPN and the server. So in the meantime, we have some questions. Question was from Brandon. So his question is, does MapleMBSE work with all pre-release 2019 capabilities on Capella as of now? For Capella adapter, the basic operations like selecting the model, the copy, paste, undo, redo, all these functionality works. Yes, you'll be able to use all the capability that we previously had connecting to a local model. So it does not have the same capability as how our Teamwork Cloud works. Like we still do not, we yet don't have a connection to the theme for Capella, but with the local model file, if you have used our previous adapter with Rhapsody, you will find the same functionalities with Capella in 2022. And the second question is from Brandon again. Thanks for your question. This question is Capella MapleMBSE integration. Does it support the use of custom profile PVMT and theme for Capella? So our current release doesn't have support for theme for Capella, but we can use the PVMT profile. So I have created examples previously based on the PVMT add-on. Yes, it's possible. Okay, now so back to the model here. As you can see on the top, I've logged into the Teamwork Cloud 2, the QA model with my username. The branch is the main, but the revision is 24. So I go back here. So this is Cameo. I'm going to show the same revision. QA model. So it's for the QA model. So here you can see that for 24, I do not actually have a branch. So branch is not available, but you'll be able to see information of that specific revision or here in MapleMBSE. So once you add new information to this revision, or if you want to save this as a new branch, double click on the save button, you'll see the commit message. So as you can see, the only way to now save is to create a branch. So by default, creating branch is checked already. So now once you enter the information, create a new branch, the branch will automatically appear. So let's say new branch. I'm adding branch name. So this is the branch name with which the branch is going to be created. Now I click OK. You can see that automatically, since 122 is the most latest revision, I have been moved to the 122 revision on the demo branch. So here, let me refresh. So here you can see the branch automatically appear. So this is one interesting capability with MapleMBSE. So with another way where I could show the difference between performances, I'm creating a requirement R10. So for the first time when I'm going to create requirement 1, like specification 1. So I just drag and drop this. You can see, like, even if I'm creating 200 requirements, it's going to take just few seconds to create. But if you have tried this in our previous release, this would take some time to create all these 200 requirements. So this is very much similar to how you are going to import. If you import 10,000 requirements, like I mentioned, this is going to take less than 4 minutes. So we already saw predicate filtering, how to access arbitrary branch, restart, creating a branch from the revision. So now also I'm going to show you how the undo is. So I just went to a previous state while I did not drag the requirements. So I use the shortcut Control-Shift-Z, and so you can see that almost 200 elements got deleted immediately. And same way, if I use redo, all these elements are going to be created again. You'll be able to see the same 200 model elements. So each of this has a unique ID, name, and a specification. So again, this is also a very drastic improvement in performance if you compare to a previous revision.